Thank you everybody for joining us today on Worth It TV. I am your host, LaQuanda McCoullum, and today's show is going to be great and dynamic because we're here back again with Roni Graham. And listen, we only just got started on her story, so I can't wait for her to share the rest of it. And what we're going to do now is start this show the way we start every single last show, and that is with the word of the week. Now, this week's word is don't move. Okay. Now, with this word, what I'm talking about is this. Everybody is always talking about they moving to Atlanta, or they moving to Texas, or they moving this place or that place or the other. They switching jobs, they changing careers, they changing their boo, all of this kind of stuff. But relocation does not equal transformation. Okay? Just because you move somewhere, it doesn't mean that your mind changed. And you can go to all these other places and still be the same exact person if transformation does not occur first. There is a story in the Bible about the prodigal son. In that story, the prodigal son, he left his father's house and he wound up in a pig's pen, eating slop. His dad was a king. And he wound up in a pig's pen eating pork. And it was not customary for the Jewish to eat swine. So he was in a pen eating their slop. And while he was in it, while he was in the mud with the pigs, he came to himself there. And once he came to himself, he got up from that pig's pen and went back home. But he didn't go home first. He left the palace with a poor mindset and tried to relocate. And that relocation ended him up in the pig's pen. Transformation has to occur first. Don't move. I don't care where you are, how dark, how dirty, how nasty it is. Allow God to change your mind where you are. Because if you can change your mind there, when you relocate, that place is not going to be able to hold you. You'll be able to prosper in every single last thing that you do. So don't move, because your relocation does not equal transformation. Transform first before you move. So I hope that word encouraged you or empowered you. And now we're going to jump into our next segment, which is spread that good news. Come on, y'all. Testify.
Hello, parents. It's Amanda Urquhart. I just want to give a quick testimony. I just thank God for what He's doing in this season with my children. I thank God because He gave me the opportunity to raise such beautiful children. And I thank God for them. I understand the day and the time that we're living in today. And it's kind of hard to raise our children with the spirit of rebellion and disobedience that is really engulfing our children. And I just want to encourage the parents on today. What the Lord has showed me, to not look on so much the negativity that your children is doing, but tap into their character, the gifting, the purpose that He put in their lives, and keep talking to them about the goodness and the purpose and the call that He placed on their life, and teach them about love and how much that you love them and that God loves them. And truly, I know that God will bring them around and He will bring love through the family. Mm-hmm. Be encouraged, parents. Love you.
Woo! Oh my God, that testimony. I hope that she encouraged some parent out there, because it's rough out here. We're raising children in a whole completely different generation. So I hope you're encouraged. And also, if you want to share the good news, you want to tell somebody about what the Lord has done for you in your life, then email us at submit@worthitTV.com. And before we bring Roni Graham back, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right after these messages. We'll be right back.
I used to think a godly person looked like this, until I realized God looks like me. I am the image of God.
So welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Roni, won't you come on back?
Tell me twice.
Okay.
Threaten me with a good time now.
Okay.
We are having one.
Yes. And it's so funny because you said that when we first started talking on the next show, you didn't want people to feel down because of everything. So you really have a unique way of sharing your experiences, but at the same time providing hope.
Yeah.
So I applaud that. That's a gift. That's a gift. That part is the gift. Okay. So we left off with we left off with you being 7 with gonorrhea.
That's it. Right there.
That's where we left off.
Put a pin in it right there.
We put a pin right there. Okay. If you didn't hear the rest of it, you really have to go back to watch the previous show on worthitTV.com. Okay. Daily Gospel Network. Okay. Watch it there. But so yes. So continue on.
So yes. So my mother coached me. The same my cousin did it. He's put through all types of trauma. And then now I'm giving back to her. I found out through writing the show, I got gonorrhea again. So she let me get messed with
Twice.
So at that point, it was done. Like my dad, I could not even see the other side of my family until I was in college. Like till I was able, like
To reach out on your own.
Yeah, I could drive and I could. They would come like they popped up at my high school. Not my mother, but my aunt, my grandmother,
right. Which understandably so.
Right. Like they popped up and they didn't even know because they're only going off of what my mother's telling them.
Yeah.
So they don't really know what happened.
Let me parenthetically insert here.
Okay.
I don't even know if that's the right term that I want to use. I don't think so, but I heard it and it sounded smart. Now, I want to say this. Kudos to your dad. Okay. There's a lot of times we don't take time out. We're always dogging black men. We are. And we're always putting them down. But when there's an opportunity for us, even in spite of whatever, he fought for you.
And he literally fought for me in the courts. Like he had to fight because my grandmother was coming. My mother was in crack house somewhere. My grandmother was trying to fight because in her eyes, my dad is a drug dealer. He's the one that got my daughter hooked on drugs. So he's bad too. So she's in the courts and my dad had to spend he spent $30,000 to win full custody of me.
Okay, you worth more than money to him. Okay. So let the record reflect. There are men out there being stand-up fathers.
Yes.
But more importantly, there are men who get it wrong, but then get it right. Okay. So we're not held hostage to the things that we've experienced if we're allowed.
Yeah, right.
If we're allowed, because it could have been that you didn't want anything to do with him on your own because of what you've experienced. But we've allowed the opportunity or space to see that, hey, people can get things right too.
Yep.
But anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah. So like I had a great childhood from that point on, like normal childhood. It's great. And then senior year in college, I decide to get sexually assaulted. I was coming from my
It wasn't her decision, but go ahead.
Yes. I was coming from my boyfriend's house late at night. It was a parking spot right across the street from my house. I parked the car. And in my brain, this is crazy. So I literally told myself, let me pack my stuff up so I can get out of the car and, no one robbed me. I literally said it to myself, let me get, like I thought I was doing something. But what I did was I opened the door, had one foot out. I turned to grab my stuff and then there was a gun in my face. So I was sexually assaulted with a gun to the back of my head.
Wow.
But he he finished. He got out the car.
Wait, so
and I was able
what
to go in the
happened?
house.
Would you mind talking about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, basically, I was forced to perform fellatio on him with a gun to the back of my head. So I was inexperienced, so I didn't know. I was young. I was 21, so I didn't know. What I was doing. So that was like, oh my God, am I going to do this? It's a lot of things that go through your head, when it. But I knew if he tries to start this car, I am going to jump out because you're not going to take me somewhere and shoot me. That's not going to happen. But he got out the car after he was done, and I was able to walk in my house. So that was
no gonorrhea from that.
No gun. I had nothing from that, and I can say that was my first experience getting in the hospital, getting the rape kit. I literally sat there and was like, okay, I could be dead right now. He could have raped me. I could be pregnant. It was so, I was like running down, like to myself, like in my brain, my mom was sitting there. I didn't talk to her. I was like literally, and I was like, oh, okay, I don't know if I could have handled that. So I'm thankful for this. And I literally was like, thank you, God.
Right, because it could have been worse than gonorrhea because you already had experience with it.
I could have had AIDS, AIDS.
Right, because people out here, you don't know what they got.
No,
and especially somebody wow enough to do something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Did that experience change your perception of how you dealt with men or relationships?
Oddly, no.
Really?
Yes, oddly no. Like literally, I pretty much never was hindered in the sexual area with men. Like I never. The only thing I didn't like, so if anything tries to be forced, like and with that whole experience, people role play, do whatever, and they're not. This person loves you, so it's just like we're having fun, and it's like, but it's just like in the beginning, it was just like, oh no, don't touch my head, like don't touch my head, don't, something like that, but now it was only in the beginning, but like now.
What about trust? Being held at gunpoint and having to perform like that. I'm amazed. That is right.
I was impressed.
Yes. Right.
See, this is why. Like and that's why it's called laughter is therapy, because I don't look at things traditionally. Like and I don't take light of it. Don't get me wrong. I have processed all of this and I'm able to let it go because I know
that part.
I am blessed because there are people that need therapy. There are people that can't let go. So the fact that I was able to let go literally that night, like I was not scared. I was not scared of men, or if a man was walking down the street, I wasn't like, oh my God. But not saying that other people is something wrong with them.
Exactly.
It's not. But I'm just looking at the fact that I don't feel that way. That is a blessing. Like
how are you able to?
That's the grace of God. Like that. I don't know. Like I literally,
the grace of God.
Other than God, like I literally don't. I don't know. Other than the grace of God, like I don't even remember what happened when I was 7 years old. The grace of God.
The grace of God.
Literally, like, and I don't want to remember. They have literally tried to send me to, put me to sleep. They were, with hypnotize me. Like do hypnotism. I went to different therapists, children's therapists, and they put the dolls in front of me and all of that.
God blocked it. He wouldn't let it be so. Ooh.
That was the whole play in a nutshell. That was the play in a nutshell.
That was the play.
It was my life from born to graduating college. And then it was like crazy because like I ended the show with that experience. and then it immediately went to my college graduation. So like it happened December of my senior year. 4 months later, I graduated college. So like it's this happy moment. You see, like, your family and friends, and no one knew that just happened.
That just happened
4 months ago.
So you
Like,
still graduated.
yeah.
And you still graduated with
Yes,
35 degrees. Yes.
I had one at that time, and then I had one.
You had one.
But-
Okay, so I think that from that there's more to her story, and we're going to get back into it after the commercial. But
Okay.
what I want you to do, if you can, is somebody who may have struggled with abuse.
Okay.
And they can't let it go. Is there a way that you can encourage them? Can you encourage that person now, if you don't mind? Yeah.
I would say that one, my fix was God, but it's not everybody's fix.
Right.
That's why therapy is there. Why therapist is there and present, and you need to get help. The more you talk to somebody, and one, know that you are not by yourself.
You're not.
This is why I told my story. People was like, my gosh, she's telling all her business. She's telling all her personal business. But I'm telling my business because I want people to know you are not the first, you are not the last, and you are not the only person to be molested, to be sexually assaulted, to be physically abused, to be mentally abused. You're not. It didn't start or end with you.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of people are walking around you. And it was crazy because after I've told my story, because the topics are so heavy, I allow people to ask me questions after the show, because the show was only an hour and 15 minutes. So I let people talk to me and ask me questions. I've had so many people that have, like, I was in a crack. I knew my mom was on drugs. My dad was a crackhead. I know I was in a crack house. I was molested. I was raped, date raped. It like just as a floodgate.
Right.
And it's like, wow, okay, see? Like, and it almost makes them feel better about going through that.
Right. And let me just say this right before we go to commercial. This is the gospel. This is the good news of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. When somebody, you're a minister. You are a minister. You're an evangelist. You're like the woman at the well.
Okay.
And when God spoke to her, and when Jesus spoke to her, and told and he told her everything that she's ever experienced, and she ran through the neighborhood, and she said, "Come see a man who showed me everything about me." Right. This is the gospel. This is your ministry message. This is your message. Anyway, we'll be right back after this commercial break with more from Miss Roni Graham.
I used to think that doing the right thing meant following the law, falling in line. Turns out, laws only protect certain people, especially when Black women's lives are at stake. I was told to stand down in Kuwait, that it wasn't my country, but this country is mine. So I won't.
You run into some trouble? Turn that shit into a graveyard.
And welcome back. Okay. Our producer just told me we have only a little bit of time left, but Roni didn't even tell us her whole story. Okay. So, okay. All right. Please.
Okay. So it's funny. So I'm a mom now. I am divorced.
Okay.
I was married and divorced.
Which is, we don't have time for that today,
We don't have time
but
for
we
that.
got to come back.
I want to say this about one important thing about divorce. Okay.
Mhm.
Since we're talking about testimonies and ministry and sharing.
Yes.
Don't let anyone shame you about divorce.
Woo!
Okay. Because
don't let them do it.
I struggled with that decision, and I literally only spoke to God. I didn't care what anybody else thought. I only cared about what God thought. Because I brought this man to God. I went to the pastor and said he was the one, and he turned out he wasn't. And so I was like really scared and nervous about that. But God kept sending me signs every time I asked a question. It was like, no, baby, go ahead. And I did it. And I was so happy. I was happy with my life after it happened. The issue I had is when people would ask me, how's your, how's it? And I'm like, oh no, I'm divorced. I get this.
Yeah.
Don't let them put, did I give you, yeah, I'm divorced. Now if I give you that, then you can give that back to me. But if I say, oh no, I'm divorced. You see this shoulder, you see this head up high? Don't give me that negative tone on my life when I didn't give it to you.
Don't give it to me either, because I'm divorced as well. And don't you give it to me.
And you see how bright
do you
shining.
see? Do you see the shine?
Do you see the shine?
Okay, look at me. I'm glistening.
You see it?
Okay,
it's dripping.
She's glistening. Okay, don't bring that over here.
So that was like, that shined so bright, like just, oh my God. And it was around the time I was putting on the show. Like it was literally like, I was getting it. I was getting, oh, sorry. So what you sorry? I'm happy. What are we sorry about?
What are we sorry about?
Sorry about? Yes. So that's just one thing I wanted to say about divorce. But after I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and kidney disease given to me by my mother, hereditary, and my daughter has it as well. So 50% chance you pass it on. So yeah, it's great. But yeah, I've been living with it for 15 years. For 15 years. And it got really bad. When I was doing this show, I had just had my daughter, and I relapsed so bad. Like whole left side went numb. I gained so much weight from steroids. I didn't look like myself. I was going through a divorce. I was single, not looking like myself. Yeah, it was a lot.
That's a lot. All of this is a big lesson within itself.
Yes.
And we could have a whole show surrounding about that. We could. But go ahead.
But yeah, so but I was, again, how I view life. Like even with, I had a relapse during the show. I couldn't run. It was very difficult for me to get on and off the floor. But I had to do this for the show.
She had to do that for the show, but also now she's a personal trainer. First of all, show them the gun. Oh, okay. First of all, let me get into this. Follow her at Roni Graham on Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay. She's also what you call that person? Ambassador for Athletic.
Athleta.
Yes. She's an ambassador for Athleta.
And I do like monthly private workout sessions, just to get, they want us. They want women of color. They know our importance.
Yes.
And, so
yeah. Oh, and that's not a weave either. Okay. That's her hair. Okay.
So yeah, but all that to say, when I did this show, when I did the talk back, and I had to explain to them, I have MS. I'm in the middle of a relapse because I almost fell during the performance, and I felt like it was so obvious. I had to say something. A lady in the audience raised her hand. She's crying, and I'm thinking she's crying about me being molested, me having gonorrhea, all this stuff I talk about in the show. And she's like, oh my God, I have MS. I have so much pain. I have so much. I gave her a hug. I said, it's going to be okay. Even in the midst of me having I don't know if I'm going to be okay, but you have to think positive. You have to think, because
I have to stop. And I know we have to wrap up, but what I want to say is, in the middle of adversity, you did a show at the same time you were having a relapse. They don't make them like you, sis. They don't. But the reason why, and we have to wrap up, so I want to say this. The reason why I wanted Roni to come on the show was because of her resilience and the way that she's been able to overcome these challenges in life. And one of the greatest attributing factors to her overcoming has been God.
Mm-hmm.
Has been God.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to encourage somebody, because sometimes we can experience, not sometimes, most times, we can experience so many different things in our lives, and we feel that it's so painful. And they have this scripture in the Bible that talks about us bearing our own cross. Sometimes our crosses, the crosses that we get in life, they seem unfair. They seem like, why do I have to carry this? Why is this mine? It's not fair. I didn't ask to be here. Somebody brought me here to experience these kind of traumatic incidents. And our stance and our response to that is justifiable because we were done wrong. These bad things did happen. All those things happened to you. All those things happened to me. And we can lean in on that. You can stay there
if you want.
If you want to. But one of the things that I found out is it's like this. When you're standing somewhere, you're like physically holding something. If you're holding something in your hand so tightly, you're using all of your energy to hold it. And physically, if you look at yourself, if you're holding a bottle, you can't do nothing else but hold the bottle.
That's it. You can't drink it.
You can't drink.
You're not lifting it. You're just holding it.
You're just holding it and you're doing nothing else. And this is how we look when we wallow in unforgiveness. This is how we look when we stay stuck on our past situations, when we stay stuck on our traumas that are real. Holding a bottle, me holding this cup is real. This is a real cup. And I could hold it if I want to. But then what would happen with the rest of my life, with the rest of my time? I can sit somewhere and hold the cup, but I can also go put the cup down. And go fulfill my purpose in life. It's just that simple. When we hold on to our trauma, when we play the victim, we are holding this thing right here. We're using all of our energy to hold it. So this was to encourage somebody to put that cup down.
Please put it down.
Go live your life.
Yes, because you only get one.
You only get one. And if you're spending all this time holding this, you are not being who God ordained you to be in this world. There is life out there for you. There is so much more for you to accomplish. And we want to see you do that. So encourage somebody before we get into the is it worth it?
Because I'm going to tell you now, and this is another thing that from what you just said that popped in my brain, is that you can either become your trauma or the opposite.
Oh, so thank you so much. Now let's get into really quickly. Is it worth it?
I want to put it. I had fun.
I love this.
I love this game.
Because it's worth it. Okay, so we got our sign. Thank you. She gave me my sign. Okay.
This is fun for me.
So producer, what is it worth it? If you're first time here, if it's worth it, we say it's worth it. If it's not worth it, we say it's not worth it. All right. Here we go. What's our first one, producer? Okay, she played games with us. But this is a $51,000 manicure. $51,000. Is it worth it? I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say not worth it.
I get my nails done every 2 weeks faithfully, like a standing appointment. That ain't worth it.
That ain't worth. I don't care how much money I had. Even if I was Oprah rich, I would not get a $51,000 manicure that I got to get done over in 2 weeks. Okay. What in the world?
I could think of other things to do.
I could think of other things to do. Okay. Is it worth ghosting people? Is it worth it? I mean,
only reason why, because I'm a Sagittarius and this is our treat. I'm working on it. And I've worked on it. And I have worked on it. But they deserve it though. This is not like I ghost people that like don't deserve it.
What's the next one?
I'm sorry.
Over 40. Man, we needed more time with this one.
Wait.
Over 40, waiting until after marriage for sex. Oh, she started. Oh, it's worth it. I have a question. What's happening? I think she's lying. She doesn't believe it. She doesn't want to wait. But it's definitely worth it. Thank y'all for joining us on today's show. Y'all come back next week. You're here. And I want to hear y'all answer that question. Is it worth